The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
This is Mama Thea of Asli Pure, and when I want to hear the story from the lion and the lioness, I listen to Lion Voice with Ross Kwasi Bonsu.
Greetings, I'm Sister Aisha Diana Conwood, currently the Assistant Commissioner of Agriculture for the U.S. Virgin Islands. Time for the lioness to roar. You know, this is the lion's voice. Lioness, let's roar, lion pour.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Ganja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lamb's voice. Now put it, I jolly for say that.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Jano, I'm so hungry, bro. I haven't eaten all day. Like, my head started to hurt me too. Like, what now could I eat right now?
What about a city samosa? Get your samosa, a fusion of Indian, Jamaican, and African culture. City samosas, the best samosas in the city.
She's like the flowers in my garden, and her heart has never hardened, and she give me loving in the morning. Babylon, you are go far without no warning. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could have be my children's mother, but no struggle, so we both could help each other. And then I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could have be my children's mother, but no struggle, so we both could help each other. Started in the village, now we in the city. Journey where we have together, everybody see. Spent a little time out in captivity. Babylon, their plan was to destroy the family. Still I want you to bring a child for me. Maybe in the spring when birds are sing lovely. Maybe we could plan to have a summer baby. I can be the man that you depend on. Put the pen to the paper, made a love song. Babylon, they separated us for so long, and the reason that they hated us was so wrong. Still the most High, he created us, we so strong. Then same Kushite and the Dogon. Love your melanin, no follow for them program. Back home and me nah go pass on you for no one. No one, that's my slogan. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other. Then I wanna be a lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other.
What do you have to tell the people about Rastafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. I left himself. Hey yo, yeah. Hail them high, hail the black king on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them comes without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion where come conquer Judah tribe.
Who?
Go through tribulation, your nice strive, see sufferation, and your nice still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them in a Toronto, straight to Italy.
Experience the spirit of community and culture at Rastafari Renaissance Fridays. Support fair trade and authentic Jamaican indigenous cultural vendors. Shop local and full joy farm fresh produce from local Jamaican farmers. Savor Ital food, sip on natural drinks, and indulge in cannabis delights. Groove to vintage roots music and open mic performances. Watch movies under the stars. Fun for all ages. Starting every Friday on March 21st at the House of Seba, Rastafari Sacred Space at Saltmarsh Square, Falmouth, Trelawney, Jamaica. Free entry. Fun for the whole family, starting at 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. To become a vendor, sponsor, advertise, or book a tour, visit Rastafari.tv or call 876-487-4138 or 954-673-6823. Join us to celebrate community, culture, and oneness. See you there.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to Lion Talk Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, fastest growing Rastafari platform on the planet, where the lionesses are telling their own story. It is Women History Month, and we continue with a power lineup. We came heavy this year. We're treading into the third year of the platform, so now we have to come out heavy. The Arkelang long gone out of Switzerland. We have to bring that now with the guest lineup, and we give His Majesty thanks for the guest that we have tonight. I get to reason with one of my legal colleagues, just a recent connection, and that's been made. I've been hearing about this sister probably a couple of years now, and passing ships, in the harbor. We finally made the connection, and now tonight we're gonna go and hear her story. This is gonna be the first time hearing a lot of this myself, so it's historic. We're sharing it with the global Lion Pride because we love her so much. Give thanks to everyone. I want to say big up to Sitota, our young youth entrepreneur. You saw the first commercial. If you didn't see it, we'll play it at the end again. City Samosas. We are providing free advertising space for young entrepreneurs, Rastafari entrepreneurs under 20. She's the first to submit her commercial. So for the Lion Pride in Jamaica, what I would like to see is anywhere that we see City Samosa, we buy 4 or 5. Let's put this young lady under some economic pressure and teach her about supply and demand. Let's buy out her inventory. Anytime you see City Samosa at an event, I know they're at Veggie Meals and Wheels. But anywhere you see this young entrepreneur selling her thing, Lion Pride, and asking the item on I behalf as a collective, buy out the whole thing. Let's put the young people under some pressure and let them know how proud we are of them, and encourage entrepreneurship within our community and our young people. So if you're just joining us live, we're going to play it again at the end. And again, if you know any young people who have businesses and they have, once they shoot the commercial, don't put any music in it because of the copyright issues. We'll put the music behind it, but they can shoot their commercial, send it in. And again, no charge. This is the platform. We are for the family. So big up City Samosas, big up Ibi Lion, the Honorable Priest, Kez Hailey, Mikael, beautiful job with his family. And again, we're supporting. Also, big up House of Seba, big event happening, taking place I believe this strong. So you saw that it is going to be, I think, every Friday. So support House of Seba and Trelawney for the Jamaica family. We're also coming up on Mama Fire's memorial. We want everyone to support our ancient matriarch. If you haven't seen her episode, it's epic. From Waterhouse on the Gully Bank to Portland, Badla Adwanaya Bingi, we have that testimony. And I think that was her last reasoning before she passed away. So, we're honored. But go check that reasoning if you have not seen it. And this is why this work we're doing is so critical. To preserve the testimony. I feel that I've been called by the Almighty to do this work. I'm telling the item, we've had 3 guests pass away since we've started this work, and their testimonies live. A little child in Mozambique now can sit up and watch the testimony of Mama Fire. A little girl who's in Zambia can be looking at Ras Joe Cooper, who also passed, Baba Duno, who also passed. So this work is so critical, and this is why I want to big up the greatest online community in the history of the world. I'm biased, but I'm just going to call the Lion Pride the greatest in the history of the world. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. So Lion Pride, you're showing up. We're 31,000 strong now, and growing by close to 1,000 every strong. And again, if this is your first time, welcome. This is a real movement that's taking place. Big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. We are still in our 100 Lion Pride Strong campaign. Patreon is our economic engine. We have people who have contributed. I want to just show the item before I go in. We're going to be doing an unboxing today. Camera lens just came in. We're going to be in 4K because of the contribution of the Lion Pride on Patreon. We're going to do an unboxing We're going to continue to invest in the quality, the standard, because I think Rastafari people deserve a world-class media apparatus, you know. The stage that we're going into in this Armageddon war will require consistent and communication, consistent narrative. We cannot let Babylon define us and feed it to us, you know what I mean? For our own sake and for the sake of the world that's searching for that light, I must be there. So give thanks to the Lion Pride and Patreon to make it happen. If you come in before April 1st, you get consultations with no cost, creative consultations. We're helping our Lion Pride and Patreon build out their own YouTube channels, their own websites, all of that. We're giving them the consultation. I do consultations where you can book through my website differently. You come in the Patreon, we're giving that value for free, 14 sessions, because we want to build up 100 Lion Pride strong. I don't want to be up here by myself. It's really simple principles that you have to apply in the creative space. And if you pursue your passion, there's an audience out there, billion plus people on the internet now. There's no such thing as a local business anymore. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be online monetizing our unique skills, our passion, or even just reasoning, whatever it is that is your passion, you should be monetizing. So join us in the Patreon. We're building a team to take on this new space, this global space. Big up everyone on Patreon. That offer is going to end April 1st. So get in. We want a serious cohort of ones. Big up all the people who have booked their consultations already. We're rocking and we're moving. The thing is moving. I'm going to give thanks. Also, big up the Ubuntu Lion Pride. You can give a one-time contribution of over $70 US and become part of our Ubuntu Lion Pride. A lot of my brethren are choosing that route. Big up on yourself. Also, we have the Action Lion Pride. You can't spend $1. You like, you comment, you share. You are moving the dial, trust me. And we give thanks for every one of the items. And even if you don't do anything, you want to be part of the Watch and Peep Lion Pride. I still give thanks for the Watch and Peep. The watch time has been consistently over either close to or over 4,000 watch hours every 28 days, which is tremendous. You need 4,000 watch hours to monetize on YouTube and 1,000 subscribers. It takes people years to do that. We're doing that every 28 days because the watchers are watching along with the rest of the Lion Pride. The peepers, we know who they are. Those are the people in Jamaica. We call them bad mind. In America, they call them the haters. We dig them up over here because it's a positive vibration. And if you watch this platform too long, you don't even become a peeper anymore. You just become a watcher, and then you just start scale up because it's so nice over here. You know what I mean? We're so loving over here. You're gonna love it. So big up the whole ecosystem that keeps this platform going. Again, we're not stopping here. We're going into blockbuster film. We want animation. We want the whole 9 yard. We are building it in front of the world so that the world can see. And again, we give thanks to each and every one. Big up Ramia King Design. Big up Ras Wooldy, CMAS Life. All of the sponsors that have been pouring into this platform. We cannot stop thanking the item for your strength. All right. Housekeeping out of the way. And thanks for your patience. We have to do those things to keep the things sustainable. So give thanks for your patience. But we know the Lion Pride is a loving family. So the item don't know. All right. So let me just introduce our guest for the evening. She's an esteemed counsel at law, the decades of experience in the advocacy in the Ganja space, known internationally, founded several organizations, frontline when it comes on to the advocacy. She's also master in terms of business development. She's a mother. She is also serving in the leadership of the EWF. I know enough of the EWF family is going to be in the comments tonight. I saw them move mighty and powerful. You know what I mean? So big up all my EWF family. She's getting close to getting me to sign up to the EWF too, you know. I've always known, you know, once you accept the divinity of His Majesty, you know EWF is part of the service. I just want to get myself together first, but she's you know what I mean, reasoning with this history and really get me fired up. So Lion Pride, help I to give a warm welcome to Sister Scheril. Greetings, Sister Scheril Murray Powell. Unmute yourself. I think I have to unmute. Isis. Unmute again. Sorry. Unmute. Hold on. There
My
we go.
apologies.
No
So greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, and Empress Menen, and big ups to my EWF family around the world. We're definitely going to talk about all the great things His Imperial Majesty had as the vision for the EWF, and we're going to talk about Ganja. We're going to talk about the work, and I'm so honored to be on this show. Brother Kwasi, thank you for holding it down in journalism for the Rastafari community and going mainstream and breaking barriers and breaking records with your success and continued success on this journey.
Give thanks.
Sharing the walk and the life of the Rastafari community.
Yes, we're gonna ask the eye, as is custom for all of our guests on this platform. We're gonna ask the eye to step into our heretical time machine.
Yes.
And take us to the birth of a young Scheril Murray Powell. Where were you born? You know, what was it like growing up? And what was your journey to Rastafari?
Yes.
Hold on. Mr. Wi-Fi, the guy, is wanting to make a entrance.
Yes, I'm happy to share. So, you know, to Jamaican parents, not Rastafari community parents. I did not grow up Rastafari, but very much a Jamaican upbringing with all of the values and the food and all the things. Sorry, I think we had technical issues. My apologies.
Yes,
I say I grew up in a very Jamaican home, not a Rastafari home. No problem.
It seemed that we have a little delay. Start again from the beginning. We're going to work it out. We're bubbling the sip, family. We're not in any rush. We're not Russians. We are Ethiopians. So let's start again from the top.
Rush.
No, let's start from the top because the Wi-Fi has been chipping out. So start again from your upbringing.
Okay, that happens though. That happens in communities. We're a global community and we expect technical difficulties, but we will be victorious with all the technical difficulties.
Can you hear?
I can hear fine.
Oh, okay. No, I said start over from the top in terms of where you were born.
Can you hear me?
That part. Yeah, I hear you fine, but we didn't get to hear the story. You said you were born in Jamaica.
Well,
start from the top.
Yes, I'll start from the top. Greetings to all of the family, all the global African Ethiopian family around the world. Greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty and Empress Menen. I'm Scheril Murray Powell, Esquire. I'm an attorney. I practice in the areas of cannabis, agricultural, dietary supplement trade, regulatory law. I was born in New York. York to very, very Jamaican parents. I was born in a Rastafari home, but Rastafari was always around me in my Jamaican culture. I feel like it was a good upbringing on Long Island. I don't think I knew any lack, or it was disguised if there was lack. And a strong focus on education, going to school. I had very stern, strict parents that intended for me and every generation. So it was all about education, all about family. My influences have been, through the music, Rastafari, very much a Christian upbringing. I was Christian Anglican, Church of England, like we do in Jamaica, and in Brooklyn, and went to Catholic school. So faith was always a part of my consciousness, but I was always seeking for more knowledge. I've been to seminary twice. I got a certificate in biblical studies from the Faith Center Church in Fort Lauderdale. But yeah, growing up was good. Being around my cousins, I just enjoyed my life that I grew up in. I had two dads. I had a bonus dad, so I was very privileged, where a lot of people didn't grow up with fathers. I grew up with two. So I consider my life to be one of, privilege, and I have an attitude of gratitude towards how I grew up and the access that I was given through to education, which was a cornerstone for how I grew up. With regards to Rastafari, one of my early Rastafari influences was my Aunt Poppy, so also known as Candace Rakim. So Aunt Candace is just a majestic, amazing, very spiritual woman who has taken time over the years to have the reasoning with me about Rastafari, being a Rastafari woman, and being that example very early in my years of what it means to embrace the culture and the liberty. For myself, that journey happened in many phases. As a spiritual person, I started out as soon as I had independence in thought. I started seeking from a faith-based perspective. So, one of my first classes that I took was on Islam and understanding the Muslim community. When I went to college, I joined a Christian group and explored, and that's when I really started, more than regurgitating what I heard from the pulpit, but really doing study on my own, and recognizing that through biblical study, things can be revealed to you differently than it's revealed to other people, and concepts can be revealed differently from the same scripture at different points in your life. So that's when I really embraced the biblical studies when I went to college, and then I took a course on Islam, and then understanding Judaic principles, and those three Abrahamic faiths, led me to when I found Rastafari a little bit later on in life, like in my 20s. And then I had a partner I lived with, was Rastafari, where it got kind of grounded as far as what it means to have a Rastafari life and have that liberty.
Where did you go to college?
Good question. So I went to college originally in Atlanta. I went to Emory University for my first 2 years of college, and that's where I started that exposure and study. And then I, ran out of money, and of course I with my independence, I partied a lot, and I ended up transferring back home to Florida University, and that's where I graduated. I served on the student government, the Senate Speaker for some campuses, and that's where I studied at Florida Atlantic University, and then law school. I went to Florida International University.
Give thanks. So you said you did Bible studies. How was that journey?
That's where I did my sorority as well.
Yes, you told me about the sorority. Tell people what your sorority is.
Yeah, so I pledged in 1996 Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which was a very foreign experience to, myself as a Jamaican, to my parents as a Jamaican. They didn't understand it. I had to introduce that to them, like what it means to have SORs, what it means to have sisters everywhere, what it means to go to any city and be able to have community in any city. What it means to be a service-oriented organization. Although service was always a part of our family infrastructure. So, I remember protesting apartheid when I was little, going to union rallies when I was little with my mom. My first protest I went to, I was 5 years old with my mom. So we were definitely an activism family. But, having that community service and sisterhood put together was new for me in my sorority. But my mom ensured that I volunteered when I was in junior high school. I was a candy striper at the where she worked at the nursing home where she worked. I was a candy striper.
Patience.
Throughout high school, I was a volunteer at a museum.
Patience, family.
Nelson Mandela was released. We went to go greet him on his first visit to New York. So we were always Pan-Africanists at heart. Our bookshelves were lined with Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, things, Winnie Mandela. I remember hearing the song Winnie Mandela. There's a woman fighting for freedom and justice in Africa. Like, that was my upbringing, very much a Pan-African space with the typical Jamaican foundation as well.
Can you tell the people where Delta sorority was founded?
Yes, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded in 1930 on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C.
I had to do that for my Howard family. Thank you.
So I have SORs all over the world. I've been a member of Tampa Alumni, Seattle. HU. Shout out to HU, a very esteemed law school that you went to, by the way.
Yes,
one of the best legal educations.
Charles Hamilton Houston, the legacy, social engineer, you know what I mean, or parasite on society. These kind of things we learn. So what I want to ask is, you went to...
Absolutely.
And there's a slight delay, so have patience with us, family. What I want to ask is that you studied the biblical studies. How did you get to the Divinity, or how did you start to look at His Imperial Majesty to reach the, say, from Anglican, Catholic to Rastafari?
Yeah, I think my first experience through my Pan-African lens, when I was away at college, I was able to enjoy books on, as I mentioned, different faiths, and that's where I started reading about Rastafari. I went to Jamaica with my mom in 1994. I think it was for Sunsplash, and we had ended up staying at the Pegasus Hotel, and like wouldn't do in the middle of Kingston, just go walking somewhere by myself. And I took a walk, and then I ended up at a Rastafari elderman's, like a shop it was like a small space with books everywhere. And then I just had a conversation with him. He gave me some books. He didn't even charge me with those books. And that is how, I really got more deep into Rastafari. But keep in mind that because of how my parents were raised, I'm growing in this knowledge, and they are very much afraid of, based on stereotypes about Rastafari. So when I'm saying I'm going to stop, straightening my hair, I'm getting the, no, you shouldn't do that because X, Y, Z, and there's a lot of stigma associated with becoming a Rastafari. So I had to combat and find my independence when I was away at college. So then I would come home on the hair. I would come home and then I'd be wearing my cowrie shell jewelry and things like that. So that's kind of how I discovered Rastafari and discovered the legality. It really was through books and learning and through example with and individuals like that. And listening to the music, not just for a nice rhythm or something to dance to, but really hearing the words of Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Dennis Brown and others who are legends, like really hearing, the outcry for justice and hearing the revolutionary spirit and hearing the love of His Imperial Majesty and the reverence for His Imperial Majesty, and that resonating within my heart, within my spirit. So that 1994 encounter I think that was really the launching pad to a true appreciation for the fact that there are books that I never knew existed about Rastafari, about His Imperial Majesty's life, about Ethiopia, and embrace the love.
This is going to be one of those nights, family. So patient with us as we get through.
That would be it. And then, as mentioned, I had a partner. No worries. I had a partner who was Rastafari, and we had a record label that we started in our house. Okay. And it was a very much a conscious experience, a conscious Rastafari experience. And it was called Four Winds Entertainment, and we had a lot of people come into the studio and doing more conscious related Rastafari in my life. And that's when my first time where I changed how I ate. And that's when I first started looking at a healthier lifestyle. The first time that I stopped eating meat was during that time, like between 1999 to 2003. It was truly about embracing the legality through music production, through more biblical studies, through healthier living and respecting my body as a temple. And during that phase, and that's prior to me moving to Seattle, where in Seattle I actually attended an Ethiopian Orthodox church. Even though I didn't understand, they would sit a translator next to me during the services. So I'd go to Ethiopian Orthodox Church when I lived in Seattle from 2003 to 2005. And then when I moved to the UK, I went to a Nigerian church. And I was in church maybe like 3-4 days a week. And that's where I really deepened my understanding of scripture. And the word was being a part of that Nigerian church called the King's Castle in Newcastle upon Tyne, England, and to the States in 2008. Went to law school 2012, I believe. That was the year I started law school.
Okay, so
it's all been more of a phased approach, including there was a phase when I changed my appearance and I changed my hair and was more natural. Then I locked my hair in 96, and then it was incorporated into my Rastafari journey. I changed my eating habits and was more health conscious. I changed how I utilize my voice in activism and really being someone who is an advocate for those who are underserved, an advocate for knowledge about Africa, knowledge about the original man, knowledge about how we are royal and majestic, and our inheritance, our great inheritance through His Imperial Majesty, but just as Africans. And it just changed my entire mindset going through that transformative process.
So in terms of the divinity of Haile Selassie, how do you see it? Because if you are, every Rastafari person has a different answer. How do you see Haile Selassie in terms of the biblical narrative? Do you see him outside of that narrative, or how do you view the divinity? I'm very interested because I know you read a lot of books. How do you see Kadamari Haile Selassie?
Absolutely. Yes, I see His Imperial Majesty as a direct descendant from the line of David, the line of Solomon, and he is divine as he was the last emperor to sit on that Davidic throne. I also feel that he had a special anointing as he went through from being a very young youth, as far as the responsibility he was given, how he handled adversity. I think that's God on earth. The way he handled going through like the loss when he lost his father, how he was groomed by his father for this life that he has lived, and given a responsibility and responsibility over Harar and things like that. I think his loss of his his teacher, when he was under attack and he was crossing over the lake, and he lost someone so dear to him, but he survived. Yes. I think the way he handled that type of adversity, even those who were, let's say, quote unquote enemies, how he dealt with them. Everyone who met His Imperial Majesty in their retelling of it, they talk about his piercing eyes. They talk about his quiet power. It's very clear that he was not a normal man walking on the earth. His writing, his autobiography, volume 1, volume 2, and what he chose to disclose to save in posterity versus what the things that you read between the lines. His ability to understand and comprehend so many different languages, his ability to translate scripture from original language from early ages, from age of 5. There's so many. There's so much evidence as an attorney. There's so much evidence of his divinity, and even the great love that he and Empress Menen had, and how that blossomed, after their past, relationships, and they found each other, and what they were able to build is like a perfect example of love. It's a perfect example of supportive, a supportive family structure. The way he handled when the Italians came into Ethiopia, and what he used his time for when he was away in Europe. He used that time to not only focus on his own plight, not focus on, oh, I want to be on the throne again, but really focus on, this is what justice looks like. This is an opportunity. I'm going through this so I can make it more just for Africans everywhere. I'm using this opportunity to reach out to the global African community and make sure they know that they don't have to be mistreated. I'm being mistreated currently, but I'm telling the League of Nations, you're next if you don't do the right thing here. And he led these nations that Africa to have respect for the Black man. And that hadn't happened to date. Melanated people had not been respected by Europeans until His Imperial Majesty to use that time in exile to specifically give respect to African people. He encouraged African countries to work together. That he could have just sat on the throne, eat good food, have concubines. Could have done that. That's a kings and royalty and emperors have chosen. He chose to be a perfect demonstration of what godly authority looks like on earth. And in doing that, he formed and founded and established the Ethiopian World Federation for all the Black people of the world. He didn't have to do that. He had his own troubles that were going on, but it's the use of the time. It's saying, I know that my time on earth is finite. I will only be with you for a short time, very similar to the Christ experience. I will only be with you for a short time. 1, I'm going to prepare you for when I'm gone. 2, I'm going to show you while I'm here who you are and whose you are. And those are all indications of his divinity, that this was not any normal man. This was not any normal man. This was God on earth. This is divinity on earth that we had the brief encounter with to spend time and learn from. But he used that time to establish the Ethiopian World Federation, to establish the African unity, to establish African presence in the League of Nations, to establish a constitution for the country of Ethiopia, to establish innovation in technology and modernization in Ethiopia. That was time well spent, and not every monarch has that vision or that sacrificial approach to life, and that's why he was the longest serving emperor.
This is why I asked the question. I knew my legal colleague would come with an answer worthy of her esteemed, reputation.
That was a good question.
No, because I don't know if people understand how much attorneys have to read.
It's hard not to be moved.
Yes. So I want to just let me flex a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I know when you see an attorney embrace Haile Selassie and the divinity, it means a lot, because we love evidence, we love researching, we love looking at source material. We go deep. It's not a surface decision. All the Rastafari attorneys I know are so thorough in their their approach to the spiritual aspect. Talk to us about the importance legally of the League of Nations speech, the importance to international law, because I think this was what distinguishes Rastafari from many movements.
The importance legally.
Yeah.
Yeah, please repeat the question. There was a little technical interference.
Okay, no, I'm saying talk about the legal importance to international law of His Majesty's
Repeat the question.
Of the League of Nations. We have a little delay.
A little technology.
We're gonna be patient. We don't worry about Wi-Fi. The guy, we battlefield. All right, tell us the legal importance of His Majesty's speech to the League of Nations.
Oh my gosh! What first of all, it was a mirror. It was a mirror held up so these leaders who are rarely around people who aren't yes people. It was a mirror held up saying, this is what you really look like. Your words are not matching your actions. You think you can continue carving up the continent of Africa, the great people, the original people. You want everything that's good uttered from our continent. And it's not right. And he said, if you hold any of your agreements to be true, then you need to be inclusive and apply that to your own. So you have to have equal application of what you say are agreements and treaties, or it's all false, it's all fake, it's all fraudulent. And this is what you're showing the world, that your words are not matching your actions. And if you think this type of treatment is limited to the African experience, then you're wrong. Because he was foretelling of what was to come, the oppression that was to come, the countries that will want to just take other countries and abuse the world and make the world its servants. And he said, if you don't stop it now, if you don't honor your word now, then you might not get the chance later. And he was so persuasive in his emotive argument that they had to look in the mirror and see that their words didn't match their actions, and that nobody believed that the story that they were telling themselves. It was the most impressive "the emperor wears no clothes" moment, where the emperor's walking around, all these monarchs and all these dignitaries are walking around saying, "We're great, we're fair, we're just," and nobody's telling them that you are unjust. You are not on the right side of history. You are not acting in a godly manner. But he was the one with the courage to say, look in this mirror so you see what everybody else sees but yourself. You're not fooling anyone. It's time for action. It's time for support. And you cannot stand with Mussolini. And if you stand with Mussolini, all the you've done, all the treaties you've done, all the agreements you've done are null and void. That was the message to the League of Nations.
Yes, yes, powerful, powerful. And, you know, terms like collective security have become a part of international law. These were terms that were coined by His Imperial Majesty. The League of Nations crash for its failure to bring justice to Ethiopia.
Yes.
And the United Nations was given the same warning that the League received, and now we're watching the United Nations crumble slowly, you know, for its failure to bring justice and bring aggressors into heal. So it's very important, I think, more than ever, particularly as legal counsel.
It's very important. It's very important that those who assert that they are in favor of justice and unity, that they walk the talk. You have to walk the talk. Everybody and people are always looking for cracks in the vase. So it has to be not only when you're in plain sight, but consistency. They say integrity is what you do when no one is watching. Integrity is what you're doing when no one is watching. And that discrepancy between words and actions could have really been disastrous for the future of the world. That would spill into international agreement, maritime law. It would spill into so many areas of commerce and trade if they did not stand with His Imperial Majesty in those, because they would be discrediting everything that they put in place. That's what we're seeing now. That's what we're seeing now. When, you know, we're seeing an administration that's rolling back all of these things that have been put in place, and not only is it just vain promises, but we're not walking the talk. We're not the haven for people who have been wronged. We're America. We're the melting pot of the world. Everything that is happening with this administration is counter to the reputation that America has had all these years, which has ensured our security and our freedom, because we're expected to be on the right side of history. And we're seeing similar actions with what's happening in the Middle East. You know, if you were wrong during a certain period of time and you've gotten, reparations as a result of how you've been harmed, how can you do that to another people?
Serious talk.
It's not lining up.
Serious.
That is what destroys the tapestry of security and foreign policy.
Very serious. Very serious. Talk to us about after graduating from law school. How did you end up in the Ganja advocacy space? You know,
yes.
What was your journey after law school?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I graduated from law school December 2015, And my graduation wasn't until May of 2016. So I was actually nominated by my peers to speak at graduation. So I was the first person to actually speak at graduation who had not only graduated but passed the bar. So I spoke at my law school graduation on stage as someone who was already a lawyer, not just a JD who had finished law school, but I was already a practicing attorney at the time that I had my graduation, and I spoke on stage. When I was in law school, I worked 3 jobs. So I worked on campus as a Westlaw rep. I worked in a law firm 3 days a week because I consolidated my law school schedule, so I only went 2 days a week. And then I also waitressed on the weekends.
Wow.
So that was my journey in law school. Once I finished law
and they
school,
tell you, stick a
I
pin,
had to pass the bar exam.
Stick a pin.
Yeah.
Because they tell you don't work the first year of law school. That's like one of the laws of law school. Don't work, but you're saying
I had to work during the first year.
Wow. The first year.
I still had to work because I had.
No, I was saying the first year of law school is where they weed out, it's like hazing because you don't really know how to study yet. It's famous in every law school. You start with a whole pack of people first year, and then by the end of the first year, it's a lot smaller group because they flood you with work, and you don't know how to properly read, and to save time, you're trying to read everything in the readings, and it's just it's really like a hazing. And this exceptional counsel is saying she was doing all of that and working at the same time. Wow. Continue. We have a delay. That's why you're seeing those pauses, family. But we are.
Yes, I was. And in addition to that, I had my. I'll say I also had a baby. So I started law school with a 9-month-old, my Judah. So my Judah lion was 9 months old when I started law school. So I had a baby, and I worked 3 jobs in law school. My first year, I didn't get a break because guess what? The school I wanted to go to, FIU, which is where I graduated, I wasn't admitted. I didn't get in. So I knew that I had to work so hard, get good grades so I can transfer into FIU. When I finished with a hold on my account, a bill that I owed, and I could not register for my second. I just started going to class even if I wasn't registered.
Wi-Fi the guy. This is one of those historic episodes. So Wi-Fi the guy going to try and muscle him way in. We are battlefield warriors. All right.
Yeah. So I definitely. So when I was in law school, after my first semester, I had bought my books. I bought my books, started going to class. 3 weeks later, they're saying, "Hey, you gotta end this because you're not registered for school." And I said, "I know my God," and I kept going to class. Then, like a week later, scholarship for me, and that's how I got to take my second semester of law school, because I started my second semester with a hold on my account and couldn't register. They found a scholarship for me like 3 weeks in, which allowed me to pay my to complete my first year of law school, but on a wing and a prayer, basically, and no choice but to work, because I had to work so that I could pay my law school bill, so that I can finish the first year with good enough grades. So So I ended up going to FIU, which was half the price of the school that I had originally gone to. And yeah, that's how I did it. I just had faith. It was completely a faith walk. They thought I was crazy because I was going to class and I wasn't even registered for class my first year.
Wow.
So I just kept going to class. Kept going to class. And eventually I got registered. I got a scholarship because of my grades.
Give thanks. Give thanks. Hard work, discipline, perseverance. I will never underestimate the power of the Black woman on the earth. I will never do that. You know? Wow. So
with the aid of His Imperial Majesty, yes, an inspiration of Empress Newman.
So tell us now, graduation and the journey to cannabis and ganja, because there's all type of law that you could get involved with. Why ganja?
Yes. And so once I graduated, I just went into the areas of law that the law firm that I worked at, and I'm still a part of that law firm today, Dumar Allsworth et al. So it's a law clerk in law school, real estate law, contract law. So I just kept doing what I knew, what I was helping the other attorneys with. But October 2016, I felt like I was, it wasn't peace for me. It wasn't clicking for me in the same way. There was a hurricane weekend in 2016, and that made me stop because everything was shut down. So when I was at home, I just started praying and meditating, and God said, look at cannabis law. And I said, I don't think that's a thing. I don't think cannabis law actually exists. That's me talking to God. And he said, no, look at cannabis happening in Florida right then and there. And that's how I chose cannabis law, because it wasn't even a consideration for me before. I didn't go into law school thinking I'd practice cannabis law. It was just the Almighty said, look at cannabis law. And then I called an attorney I found out about, Michael Minardi, and he said, that's where I need to be. And that's what happened for me is, God told me to look at my people needed me to pursue cannabis law. And I started out as a cannabis attorney, and then I started going to Black farmer conferences, visiting Black farmer conferences. And then that's when I picked up E, and then in CBD space. And then from there, I started changing laws everywhere. I would go, Jamaica already had the Dangerous Drug Act. I went to Trinidad. I went to Bahamas. I went to Barbados. I went all over trying to mobilize community to change the cannabis laws. And that became my work. Just going from one jurisdiction to the next jurisdiction, where agricultural dietary supplement happened in phases based on what the people need to understand. Because as you know, Ross Kwasi, there aren't that many of us. So as I understood a new area related to plant medicine, related to cannabis representation, then I started, pursuing those areas and becoming an expert in the areas where I thought our people would need the support, our people would need the guidance, so they're not taken advantage of. So I spent a lot of time between 2017 and I would say 2020 in Jamaica. I was in Jamaica maybe 3 times a month. Conferences like I spoke at Canex in Kingston at the Pegasus 2017. I spoke at Canex in Montego Bay. I spoke at UTEC, built a relationship with UTEC. I would take UTEC students and bring them over to the state so they can speak with me at the Cannabis Science Conference. At the next generation in Jamaica would have all the opportunities as students who were in the United States. So I really got involved with, I had a mentor, Dr. Eleanor Grizzle. She's in Jamaica. She was very involved with UTEC, their health sciences department, and then students and giving them guidance on their product development and helping them to have opportunities to speak at Tuskegee University, as well as pursue higher education at Tuskegee and other agricultural schools. So that was part of the work. And when you look at the work is varied, and that's what I want people to really understand. Is that's part of the work.
Wi-Fi, the guy, people. You see, I'm being patient. He's trying to shake us up, but we're here. Yeah. We'll let this thing just manifest how it manifests. The message has to go out.
So I was just talking about the work. Yes, how it's various. Like some of it is being on stages. Some of it is, some of it is reading documents and making sure that our people are not stuck in predatory contracts and predatory, agreements and relationships with people. So, there's a lot of pro bono work involved. You can't do pro bono for everywhere or you're starved. Pursuing justice, writing the laws. So writing, legislation and going back year after year after different sessions in different jurisdictions, trying to get them to have diversity language, trying to make sure that they recognize the harm done to faith-based community and Rastafari, getting them to change their mindset about the law and faith-based use of cannabis. Working with, so once a law is made by legislators, then the regulators get their chance. So working and lobbying with regulators to ensure that they're implementing the law in a way that allows for maximum participation. Like the work is so varied. Like tomorrow, I'm going to Atlanta. I'm speaking at the Capitol in Atlanta tomorrow about the legislation that's being proposed and the different delivery systems for cannabis that should be introduced, because they don't even have flower in Georgia right now. So being able to advocate, no, you can't just have people using these vapes and things. They need to have access to flower, especially as faith-based users. Us indigenous plant-based users, we need to have different delivery systems, and you combat such as, children you're exposing children to cannabis. No, legal cannabis actually limits access, again, stigma, false information that you overcome by being an advocate legislatively and from a regulatory perspective. I remember when Louisiana rolled out their cannabis, their hemp and CBD legislation, and they were trying to determine how to do it. Their Department of Health, I had to fly up multiple times to the Department of Health and say, listen, sublingual oils are not food, because their law banned food. So implementation, we need to make sure that we maximize the different is varied and it doesn't stop. And as I said, tomorrow I'm going to be doing the same thing that I did in 2016, going back to Georgia, where I've already been working on their laws since 2016, 2017, 2018. And now I'm making a return there with other advocates to ensure that there is maximum opportunity maximum opportunity to participate as entrepreneurs, maximum opportunity for people to advocate through government, and maximum opportunity for community reinvestment dollars to encompasses the work that has to be done and the work that I do. I had criminal cases that I was part of the legal team for in Iowa, in Nebraska, trying to make sure that hemp and CBD were not classified as marijuana in those countries, because that would set precedents for the entire country. If those cases were lost or unsuccessful back in 2018, 2019 in Nebraska and Iowa, then that would be the highest law in the country, and then hemp would be considered marijuana before the Farm Bill of 2018 passed. So those are the things that I was constantly on planes, whether it was going to Jamaica, going to other Caribbean, sovereign nations, going to England when they had their novel foods registration. I had a client that had CBD products they wanted to sell in England, and I went back and forth, helped them open 4 CBD stores in England, and help them file their novel foods registration. So, boiling the ocean, it feels like wrapping your arms around, the ocean, trying to do all this work, but it's not worth why community is so important. That's why coalition building is so important. Like, we have to always be humble enough to know that the work isn't about us. The work is about finding like-minded individuals. The work is about inspiring young people to become lawyers, to become with integrity, to become accountants with integrity, with a heart for the people. And across, they're passionate about the plant, passionate about plant medicine. We need you to go to law school. Because a lot of times lawyers will say, oh, it's saturated. You don't want to be a lawyer. You don't make any money anymore. I say, no, we're going to disrupt that false narrative. We specifically, our community, especially Rastafari community, we need as many lawyers as we can get to do fraud. And I was fortunate that because I had a solid family foundation, I have to always give credit to my mom, my dad, aunties for holding me down. When I was on planes flying all these places, I had a child who was like between 3 and 10 years old. Now he's 13, and I'm home more now, but I can be home now more because I've created so many leaders, and I've encouraged and inspired so many other people to participate and to do that work that I used to have to do by myself because there wasn't anyone else who was able to, as an attorney, fly from city. There were some weeks when I was in 4 to 5 cities, 4 to 5 states in 1 week. There were weeks when I was in 4 doing work for Ganja, and it was exhausting. I missed my son. I was hoping he would understand it. So I would only take clients that would. Yeah, it was funded because I only took clients who understood my advocacy. So they knew that if I'm doing this work, I'm also going to mention you and things that are important to you. So that's why I had these hemp and CBD clients, because if my hemp and CBD clients and countries to help with legalization of hemp and CBD, I was also advocating for ganja for faith-based use, and they understood that. So, or if I got an opportunity to speak about Sacramental, I would also talk about my clients who were funding the work. So it was kind of like a bartering situation where they knew wherever I was, they were represented. And the invitations that I would get from an advocacy perspective, they wouldn't get from a commercial perspective. But they knew that when I got an opportunity that they paid for from a commercial perspective, I'm going to represent myself as a Black woman. I'm going to represent myself as a Rastafari woman. I'm going to represent myself as a faith-based advocate. And I was able to, in the spaces that I couldn't afford to get into, I was able to advocate for my people in those spaces. So it worked both ways. There's some spaces I could only get into money that I could bring in Rastafari, sacramental use, and social equity. So it all worked together, and my clients all knew that. I would, if someone had an issue with my advocacy, I wouldn't take them as a client. And I left a lot of money on the table because I would never depart from my mission for legalization, my mission for social equity and community reinvestment, and my mission for Rastafari and sacramental use. And again, I didn't do this work alone. I had, my partner in Jamaica. I want to definitely give him a shout out, Billy Reynolds, Ross Billy. Like, he taught me a lot. He traveled a lot from Jamaica, going to these conferences, speaking at Southern University about Rastafari and things like that. So, this work was never done alone. There was always Minorities for Medical Marijuana. That was my first job in cannabis. It was pro bono, it was free, but I learned through that. I got access to different conferences and experiences through my membership there, through being their general counsel. So every opportunity that I take is for either to legalize, either to advocate for social equity, community reinvestment, Rastafari, faith-based use, plant medicine. It has to take at least one, if not more, of those boxes for me to what I have done for 10 years, non-stop, every single day.
What is
and then
the
it ties
difference?
the Ethiopian World Federation now, so now that I'm more home, I can work on that.
Okay, what is the difference between medical and, I said, what is the difference between medical and sacramental ganja?
That is the greatest educational opportunity that I get, is being able to speak to that question. So in our world as faith-based users, because we are aligned with our indigenous community, we are aligned with our Hindu community as this broader concept of faith-based users. In faith-based use, it is all the things. It is a medical use, it is a spiritual use, it is a meditational use of ganja. It is all the things, and it has existed for millennia. Only in modern society do you try to arbitrarily create these separations. Very similar to what I call man-made borders, like the countries that we identify with now, the nationalities we identify with now. That is all man-made borders, and it's the same with plant medicine. So to say, take a ganja plant that is the healing of the nations, that has given so much of us, and try to put it in a category of medical, when it's the same exact plant that is used meditationally, that is used spiritually, that is used for all these different purposes. It's only to acquiesce to man's need for categorization. There's no real distinction. But when it comes to getting laws passed, we have to step in the shoes of legislators and lawmakers and to help them understand and to create a spirit of empathy within them. That's why we started with the medical. And, when we started with, back in, prior to like 2016, et cetera, started talking about medical, had the moms pushing wheelchairs with their sick children. We had our veteran community showing up at capitals. We had all that happening because those were harmed people, but it also created relatability and it created empathy from people who are rich. So when we look at the people who are typically lawmakers, they have wellness privilege. They have had pretty much good health, so they don't understand the urgency of legalization. They don't understand the urgency of being able to give access to these people. They may not have a child who has, cancer and things like that. So to introduce these individuals making laws from their privileged position of wellness privilege, we have to introduce them to the sick child, to the veteran with PTSD. And then also now we're trying to raise their consciousness and talk about the fact that you understand religious freedom. It is one of the core tenets of our country. It's the core concept of the United States. You understand it from a historical perspective, but you don't realize that by denying access to ganja, you are violating our culturally protected right. You are violating our religious freedom. And even though you have this legal infrastructure for yourself and fits into the category, it's not pure for us. It's not sacramental for us. We have to grow it the way that our rituals require, the way that our sacramental purity requires. So even though it's legal here, we can't go into a dispensary and call that sacramental when it has pesticides and when it has chemicals. We don't know the nutrient management strategy. We don't know the pest management strategy. We don't know what types of animal feces was used in production. We can't go in there with the surety that this is meeting our religious freedom right, that this is meeting our sacramental reliance, and it's detrimental. So you force Rastafari community, despite everyone else being able to not be illegal anymore, you're forcing Rastafari community to be illegal, to have our continue our infrastructure, our sophisticated infrastructure and network of getting sacramental ganja to our community, because you won't allow us to select our seeds ceremonially, prepare our soil ceremonially, to grow our ganja ceremonially and ritualistically, and to harvest ceremonially and ritualistically with our psalms, with our religious rites, right? So other than that, you're forcing us to either violate or tarnish our religious freedom and just take any type of ganja without the knowing that all these ceremonies and rituals have taken place in its production. You want us to just throw that away and just take what you have? Or let's get to a higher level, which is consistent with the values of the United States, which is consistent with the values of the United Nations, and allow us to produce our own cannabis to our standards and take part in our ceremony, and doing that work through ASTM, and as far as developing the 4 models for incorporating sacramental use into legal structures, introducing that as guidance through ASTM, and creating a definition for sacramental use and a definition for ceremonial use, and creating these definitions. We do that so that we can stay true to ourselves and allow people. Sorry, we're not selfish people. So in doing this work, it's not just like only Rastafari gets these benefits. It's saying faith-based users. We're going back to the original tenets of this country, that religious freedom is a real thing. It's a protected thing. It should not be violated. So the work that we do as Rastafari, as the most vocal faith-based community, we're doing for the Hindu community, we're doing for our indigenous folks, and we work with the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association. Every year in December, I'm in DC, I am speaking at the Indigenous Cannabis Policy Summit. The leadership, Robin, Mary Jane, are together. So where I go, I bring them in, and where they go, they bring in the Rastafari community, because there has to be people have to be sensitized to the fact that this is our holy sacrament. It is nothing. It's not a game. It's not like, I remember when we started seeing legalization, people are, oh, now everybody's going to have glaucoma. Ha, ha, ha. No, it is no joke. This is a holy sacrament. This is a part of our whole ceremonial, ritualistic approach to being in our liberty as Rastafari, and it should not be violated. And as counsel, as an attorney, Rastafari, you understand the mantle that we carry to have these conversations in these spaces, the conversations that our elders aren't able to have, so that the future generations, we're not the ties that bind us to our sacrament are not severed based on how the law is constructed. That would be a travesty, and we're not going to let that happen. And that's why this work through ASTM is really important. And then I want to also shout out Rasbaya in Jamaica, because we've been having this conversation for at least 7 years, where he's working with RMO and all these organizations to develop like a very acceptable to the rule makers, SOPs and guidance as far as what sacramental, what are the requirements of sacramental ganja production. And I'm excited about where we're going with regards to that for the Rastafari community that have been disenfranchised for so many decades. When we see that it is starting to be looked at from an academic perspective, and is starting to be looked at from a true cultural right and religious freedom perspective.
Yes, and we're gonna bring the eye into that. What she's talking about is the ITAL certification standard. We're definitely gonna make sure the eye tap into that work with the wealth of experience that the eye have. I think the eye will be a valuable asset to
I look forward
that ongoing work. We have a question from one of our esteemed elders. One of our esteemed elders. I see the eye, Bongo Wisely. Bongo Wisely is asking, should sacramental herbs be monetized? Talk to that question.
Yes, so Bongo Wisely, greetings and blessed love. You have been in this space for a long. Thank you for being so active and involved. Every space I go, I hear the eye and I see the eye. So I just want to give respect and honor that's due to Bongo Wisely. Now, should it be monetized? I have changed my perspective on this. When I first started doing this work and traveling, I was of the thought that, is just looking at the Dangerous Drugs Act in Jamaica and the carve out. So that's when you look at the 4 models for incorporating sacramental use into legal structures. The first one is called the Jamaica model. And the Jamaica model is based on the change that was made to the Dangerous Drugs Act by the Minister of Justice at the time, Minister Golding. That change that was made to the Dangerous Drugs Act, which put that, sacramental as having it separate and apart. But what it didn't recognize is the ability to monetize. The monetization or the commercialization fit very cleanly under the authority of the CLA. The way you can kind of mitigate that is either in addition to having the Minister of Justice over sacramental production, etc., festival authorizations, etc. But there should be priority for Rastafari, not just because it's done that we are a harmed community. There is enough historical perspective. There's enough best practice around the world of the recognition that harmed communities that have been harmed by the criminalization of cannabis have been, across the United States and in other countries, prioritized for licensure. So even if we do have the CLA where the commercialization happens versus the the Minister of Justice where the sacramental takes place, absent monetization, or it's silent about monetization, through prioritization with CLA issuing licenses, which there wasn't able to do that for small armors as well. We can prioritize in multiple jurisdictions by allowing sacramental users to commercialize. I'll give you a couple examples. So when we look at the Catholic Church, this is probably the most common relatable example. When you look at the Catholic Church and taking community, you have your host, which is the bread, you have your wine, which is you have the body and the blood, the host or the bread and the wine. And those things are not typically produced by the church itself. It's a distribution point on a Sunday in service for the bread and the wine, but it's not necessarily a production place. So there's a supply chain of bread and wine, or the little wafers and the little wine cups, whether it's like bread and wine, or whether it's like the manufactured wafers and bread, sometimes in the same packaging. There's a supply chain for that. There should be a supply chain for our holy sacrament, which is ganja, that where it leads to our tabernacle experiences, our whether it's even herb house experiences, of how it gets there, and a prioritizing for Rastafari to be able to do that and commercialize. So that's just a very broad example. And then a very specific example is just looking to the history of Rastafari and honoring the history of Pinnacle, and the fact that Pinnacle was a self-sustaining community funded largely by cannabis production and the production of our Holy Sacrament, and replicate that in where communities are self-sustaining, it can commercialize, which leads to progressive education, progress with regard to economic growth in communities, resulting from the ability to commercialize. Stubborn, I was maybe arrogant. When I was younger, I'd be like, oh, well, it's fine for Sacramental to be separate. As I've matured in listening to the people, I recognize that by not allowing for the commercialization of our sacrament, we are discriminating and treating it very different from the holy sacraments of other communities, such as the Catholic community. So why can they have a supply chain which produces their sacrament, but we can't have a supply chain that produces our sacrament? So I think my view on it has evolved with maturity and through meditation and understanding.
No, I was saying the Catholic Church was exempt during the time of prohibition in America when alcohol was illegal. The Catholic Church was exempt from the prohibition. They were still able to have their sacrament.
The Catholic Church was exempt. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just some good old-fashioned lobbying. That's some good old-fashioned influencing. So we have to our situation and for our liberty and our way of life, and why exceptions need to and can always be made. But unfortunately, that influence typically takes some type of financial backing. So it's difficult, but it's a very necessary advocacy to ensure that every Rastafari. So I would say our dream environment is where you can be walking down the street, you see the Lion of Judah flag, and you know this is a sacramental place where I can get safe, clean, sacramentally produced cannabis that I can take and do my own ceremonies at home with this cannabis and not be disrupting my spiritual liberty. This wasn't by at UTEC many years ago. Even the amount of rage that someone has when they're producing ganja, like their emotional stability, their how they're feeling, their energy. That's what he says. He's always talking about energy. The energy used to produce cannabis is important, whether it qualifies and pure enough to be used as our holy sacrament. I see a question. I'll let you
yes. What? This is from Germany.
I do. Why differentiate between sacramental and non-sacramental? Yeah, so why differentiate between sacramental and non-sacramental, though it's not more fundamental than that? So only Rastafarians would be allowed to smoke it. What about the rest? Now, the smoking is not down to Rastafari or not. Smoking is not down to Sacramental or not. Smoking is really only a delivery system. Sacramental ganja can be in a tincture. Sacramental ganja can be used for nutrition as well. Sacramental ganja can be used topically. It's not about whether you're smoking it that makes it sacramental. It is about the approach to production and including your rituals, your ceremonies, and your energy and the right energy. That all those things feed into why it's sacramental or not. No, it's not just for Rastafari, but Rastafari has our own way of production, which you will learn more about when the RMO and the groups in Jamaica finally publish their protocols and SOPs that they are painstakingly putting together for the international Rastafari community. In indigenous community, their ceremonies and rituals are different, and we still advocate for indigenous North Americans to have access to sacramental ganja. It's not just about users should not have their religious freedom violated. We, as Rastafari, we don't just advocate for ourselves. We are advocating for everyone who has this right to have religious freedom and enjoy this plant and know and to be secure in themselves that it was produced in a way that's consistent with the purity of sacramental ganja. And we believe that indigenous North Americans deserve that. Indigenous Africa, one of our one of our leaders, Ras Habib, did a beautiful presentation a few weeks ago about the tie between Congo and Rastafari and Congo and Ethiopia, and the fact that ganja didn't come over with the colonialists. The ganja didn't come to the North America through colonialism or from from the Indian indentured servant. It was here a long time ago through our Congolese roots. You know what I mean? We were always travelers. So education has period and a story and cultural use as well. So I
definitely.
I missed the last question.
Yes. This is from Bongo Wisely. He's also part of the ITAL certification.
Most of the CARICOM. Thanks, Bongo Wisely.
I think
I don't know. So I think CARICOM did a great job with the research they did. I think around 2019, 2020, CARICOM came together. They actually met in Jamaica, I think in Mobay, and they had a report on a like overall ganja analysis, right? And what their findings were that the criminalization of ganja is what caused the harm. So I'm not so sure if CARICOM states are saying that ganja legalization is harmful. I think they've evolved their view. I know in particular was based on their church influence was very, very restrictive on cannabis. But once we had this report that came out with their meeting or 2020 when CARICOM came together in Mobay and they released this report and they discussed this report, evolved their thinking. And also our leaders are younger now. So, a lot of the people with the archaic, old-fashioned way of thinking have passed on. They've aged out of leadership. With regards to like how they view ganja. So Bongo Wisely, I think with regards to the CARICOM view on ganja, but with regards to Sacramental, U.S. Virgin Islands, it was the first U.S. Jurisdiction to include in their legislation and their regulations a recognition of Sacramental ganja. That's huge. Jamaica was the first country in modern times to recognize, and it was closely followed by Antigua, shortly after that. So I think this is in a evolved space. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I was there. I have to shout out Minister Sabota Caesar, who was their Minister of Agriculture, and the work that he did. But they were supposed to file a sacramental bill. Part of the legalization bill was supposed to include sacramental, but it didn't last minute. But there was an intention of having sacramental as a part of the St. Vincent and Grenadines, along with amnesty provisions as well. So I think that's changing. I think we can't paint it. Our CARICOM leadership recognized the commercialization potential, the economic development potential with the plan, and some are even evolved that they want to reverse the harm that was done through the criminalization process, criminalizing our Rastafari community, and they recognize that they saw that discrimination that took place, and they want a generation that repairs that harm. And we're happy for them to do so. So I think each country should be looked at separately. There was economic, so many different types of harm that was created from criminalizing. It was a very costly endeavor to criminalize, cannabis users and cannabis producers, and it was a fool's errand. And I think all the CARICOM nations are in agreement about that.
Yes, give thanks. Talk
about there are other, while you're looking questions, I'll just
no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was going to take the opportunity to talk about the Ethiopian World Federation. Okay,
hold on 1 second before you jump there. Before you jump
I'm
there,
the international first vice president. I'm the local, the president of Local 12.
Hold
I have
on,
a great love for EWF.
1 second. I want to do a whole section on EWF, but before we go there,
I'm following your lead.
Yes, talk about how amazing it is that the elders of Rastafari identified Ganja as the healing of the nation before there was scientific knowledge of THC, the endocannabinoid system, all of the things that we now know make this plant special. Talk about, because I don't think people understand Sacramental and why we need a separate system. But talk about how revolutionary that the elders said that this was the healing of the nation before it became the scientific knowledge of the benefits of the plant, and these things were made mainstream.
Yeah, I think again, I really hope we can put out Ras Habib's presentation about the Congo and the centuries of history of the things that we get from that Congo to Ethiopia journey that's very indigenous to our culture as Black people, as Ethiopians, a larger mass than it is in present day of again man-made borders. But Africa basically is Ethiopia, right? So just from that historical perspective, it's important to recognize the important part. It wasn't created just like 100 years ago, that it is existed for centuries, and I believe the legality has existed for centuries. It just gets passed down, and there are various colonial attempts to sever that relationship with between Jah and man. And how we express ourselves and how we elevate ourselves. But just talking about the endocannabinoid system in the science. So I've done a lot of research. So I've been on numbers of boards. I just cannabinoid and psychedelics medicine nurses task force advisory board. I was on research board. I've worked on a number of research projects in Jamaica, case studies in Jamaica and here. The science is just catching up to Rastafari now. When you look at clinical studies, I'm on the DEA hearings. I have a client who is testifying in the DEA hearings when we ever finally have them, Shanitha, and she is the executive director for Veterans Initiative 22. So she's one of 25 people that have been identified, or groups that have been identified to testify to the DEA about rescheduling cannabis, and she's a scientific researcher. So I'm very steeped in the science of cannabis, and yes, we all have an endocannabinoid system. It's not just humans, it's all mammals have an endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is like a mirror plant. You have receptors that need cannabinoids, that need the chemistry of the ganja plant for us to get into homeostasis, for us to be in balance. And because of prohibition, they severed that. And that's why even with livestock used to feed on hemp in the fields and things like that. And then we see all this livestock illness. That's why we're seeing such an increase in the illnesses that we're seeing right now in the human community. Part of that has to do with we're starving our endocannabinoid system. And again, as Rastafari, we've always been advocates for it. We've known that you need to be in homeostasis. You need life balance. You need balance, and ganja brings that balance from a mental perspective. It brings that balance from a physical perspective, right down to the cellular level, to all your endocannabinoid system and your receptors in your body. Early research, I always want to shout out Dr. Melanie Dreher, who was a nurse who did that research on pregnant Rastafarian women back in early 90s. She's a friend of mine. She's on the board of Patients Out of Time with me. Patients Out of Time is the first organization to give CMEs, credits for education on the medical side in the globe, and we're actually approaching our road to 30. So this is our 30th year of cannabis education. It's like how we have CLEs in law, like CLE credits. It's for the medical professional, so it's the equivalent for so they can keep their licenses and things like that for medical professions. Marilyn Mathery, who started Patients Out of Time 30 years ago, so we actually just released a podcast where the original people talked about all the stigma and that they had a 1976 trying to legalize cannabis in 1976. So you can imagine how they were treated in 1976 with all that outliers. They were ostracized by their community. So, Patients Out of Time still exists. We still do the work of kind of legalizing and making sure that everyone has access so they can be in homeostasis. And it's a medical science approach. Dr. Melanie Dreher sits on that board with me, and she's the one who did that fantastic, well-cited study on Rastafari women and their children that they produced while they were smoking while pregnant or consuming cannabis, I would say, while pregnant. And there was no distinction within the first 30 days. And then beyond 30 days, their children were performing better than the children that hadn't been their mothers haven't been consuming Sacramental Ganja. It's Sacramental Ganja during that time. And she's actually looking to reproduce that study now in Jamaica and also across the United States in legal states. Custodial issues, especially for Black people. So, when you look at cannabis advocacy and when I started, I kept asking, where are the older Black advocates? Because I'm seeing some older white advocates that I do this work with them. They're on boards with me and things like that. But where are the older Black women and things like that? They were being arrested. They were getting their kids taken away from them. There was so much stigma. We were disproportionately impacted, even as advocates, that there really isn't a lot of history of who the Black people who were advocating for the plan outside of Rastafari that held firm, but they just moved more rural areas of and to keep possession of their children, and to not be harmed, and not to get their locks cut, and all those different things. So, when you talk about the science, in I believe it was 2018, and this is stuff that I'm reading a lot of research to prepare for these DEA hearings that are coming up. Me and Shanitha, we meet almost every morning at 9 a.m. and we go over studies, we go over the affidavits that we've collected, so we're prepared for the hearing. And when you're, in I believe it was 2018, there's like 300,000 clinical trials that were occurring in the world. Only 842 were related to cannabis. So I'm using those numbers so you can really understand the distinction between what research is available. We're getting better do research and not fear that they're going to lose their federal budgets. We have international research, research that's been done in Israel and other countries that we're giving credibility to and accepting as good research. And the programs like the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, and that's where Shanitha got her master's degree. They're really teaching this whole generation of students how to analyze these clinical studies to understand what's good research, what isn't good research, so that we can be able to form these arguments and appear in these court environments, in these United Nations environments, in these World Health Organization environments, and show and demonstrate this good research that has been occurring, but making sure that we can present it in a way that has credibility. So that's the work. Also, part of the work is really analyzing and educating this new generation of students to properly analyze in a way that. And with the DEA hearing and the recommendation from the Office of Health and Human Services, they created analyzing, to determine whether cannabis should be rescheduled, and they call it the two-part test. And the two-part test it's simple and it's not, but we have all of these medicinal states. Most of the country, like almost 50 states, 48 states, have some type of medical program in place. So we can't act like there isn't data available, because people are getting their recommendations every single day to go into a dispensary and get their cannabis. So let's look at that and show have there been adverse effects? If not, let's make sure that we're removing these false narratives about the safety and efficacy of cannabis. So that's the first part of the test, is really looking at what we have already, what we've built over the past 20 years of legalization. We have this data now. We have a plethora of data that's available. You can't put your head in the sand and say, we don't know enough about this plant, because we have medical patients everywhere, especially in this country, but also globally. The second part of the two-part test really is about the science and the work that Shanitha does and other scientists with reviewing these clinical studies and what their findings were from these double-blind studies and these populations that have been selected, these sample populations that have been selected for clinical trial research. So when you combine those two things, the Health and Human Services is recommending, or in the last administration was recommending that, based on this, we have enough data to make this recommendation that at a minimum, because I'm a deschedule or bust person, even though I'm representing, this rescheduling, effort, my goal, especially for faith-based users, but, using this two-part test, using the recommendation for the Health and Human Services to the DEA, we can, based on what we know, it is not harmful, and that there is an argument for legalizing and making it federally legal, so interacting on an international level. There's a whole international commerce of legal cannabis. There are exports happening from South Africa to Germany to all these different places, from Jamaica even. And the United States doesn't get to participate in that. So we are blind, and we're oh, it's not federally legal. But just about everywhere else, you know, I guess outside the continent, but even on the continent, there's some activity, you know,
Yes.
it's just us.
Medical.
We are the outliers.
Medical. I
Yeah.
see in the comments they're reading about legalization in the West as opposed to Africa, and medical it started to move on the continent in some of the countries. Big up to Ras Aswad, who doing some tremendous work in Ghana. And I want the people to know that even though we're talking about the US, one of the reasons why it's so important because most of the anti-cannabis laws around the world are enforced by the United States of America.
Blessed love.
And the money they give to drug interdiction in all of these countries around the world. This is one of the main obstacles in the UN and all of these. So when the United States eases their pressure, it's going to free up the entire globe because they are the principal entity that is, funding anti-drug enforcement. You know, a lot of these states get money. Jamaica, in particular, Jamaica would have freed up the thing long time if it wasn't for the US.
Yeah.
So it's a strategy. But Africa Africa is always our goal, and the herb will be free in Africa in due season. So don't worry yourself. All right, we're going to come off of the ganja topic. We're almost at 2 hours. We have to talk about EWF or people are going to get vexed with it. Tell us about the EWF and the great work with the EWF and why the EWF.
Yeah, so I didn't hear the question, but I did hear EWF, and I've mentioned that I'm the international first vice president,
EWF.
duly elected in a convention 2024, and it has just grown to be such a big love of mine. The EWF, not only because it's His Imperial Majesty's vision, and it's a gift. It was like such a blessing, and it was a demonstration of his love for every Black person on this planet. And he said, no more, like, suffer no more. You have a home in Ethiopia. You have an identity. And I'm going to make it headquartered in New York, which is where I live, headquartered in New York. And we're going to do this work. We're going to be that are about the people from a medical unit. We have sick committee. We have a women's auxiliary unit. We have a juvenile unit. We are so well organized from this original Constitution in 1937. I have my Constitution. I use it all the time on my calls and things like that. I read it all the time, and it's like a document of perfection because it really gives us a black print instead of a blueprint. Gives us a black print for how you advocate and elevate your people. And being able to do this work with other EWF members around the world is a great joy because, from one perspective, it's like it just shows that Jah is still with us, because so one person will have an idea in the US and it's replicated in the same timing, whether it's in the synchronicity of the work that Jah is doing in us through the EWF. And then from the other perspective, it gives us an opportunity, because from our love of the Constitution, from our love for our people, to be catalysts for each other and elevate each other, like iron sharpens iron. I see that all the time with the Ethiopian World Federation, where we refine each other. We have to have a fraternal spirit. We challenge each other where we need to be challenged, but from a place of trust that is built from the fraternal spirit. So you're never alone. You have this long-lasting community, and then you have other organizations like IDOR, non-Rastafari organization of our people. So that's why I really love the work that I get to do as an international officer, as the president of Local 12 for EWF, is because we're elevating our community together. And we there's a place for everyone, from no matter where you're from, in season that you are in your life. There was a season when I needed assistance, when I was working 3 jobs, as I told you, and I had a baby. I needed assistance in childcare. I needed assistance in things like that. You know, the Ethiopian World Federation is designed to be a vehicle to meet our people at their needs, but also empower and embolden our people to take leadership and provide benefits to other people. So it works. It is a double-edged sword, our Constitution and the work that we do. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk that, and then some of the elders that I get to work with in Local 12. So Ross, Mikey, Dan, Sid, Joan, Empress, Ima. These are legendary names of people who have gone from continent to continent doing the work of Rastafari or doing the work of the EWF, Rasparima, Sister Pam. These are people that I get to interact with on a regular day-to-day basis that are known internationally for just being defenders of truth and rights. Just strictly focus on truth and rights, the Constitution, elevating Black people. And they've done that for 40, 50 years. For me, I'm just started. They've done it for 40, 50 years. I've been a part of so many organizations in cannabis. Bud for Vets. I'm in a movie about veterans. I've been on all. I just got this University of Miami task force, University of Florida. But each organization gets 2 or 3 years out of me. But to be steadfast and dedicated and do this work for the Black people of the world for 40 years, for 50 years, that's what I want to emulate. That's Empress Ima. So I call Empress Ima. She's my mother, sister, friend. She's my mother, sister, friend. She's a queen mother to me. She's a sister to me, and she's a friend to me. And to have that experience, and again, that experience of trust is very important. So that's our convention will be in Azania. Our convention is the same day every year because it's in this book in the Constitution, July 16th, and we want all the Black people of the world to join us and be members and fellowship and experience what I've experienced. But we need your ideas too. We need the innovation as well. So, they say one hand can't clap. You have to, where 2 or more are gathered, Jah is in the midst of us. So that's why we invite people to join us, be a part of us, be accountability partners for us in this work we're doing for the Black people of the world. And we are doing amazing things as far as repatriation and getting our people back to Africa and working with government, getting land grants and things like that in a way that's sure that we are researching, that we are taking time to build these relationships. They say in my father's house there are many mansions. I go to, and that's really the spirit of our repatriation strategies in the Ethiopian World Federation, Local 12. We have our own strategy as well with regards to repatriating our members. It's really about that scripture of in my father's house there are many mansions. And the father we're referring to is His Imperial Majesty. It's that Ethiopia that's basically the whole map of Africa. There are many mansions. There's a home there. We are going now, the work we're doing now is to prepare a place for all the people who want to return. And it's through working with our brothers and sisters who are already there and starting to trade with them our talents. We don't want to, again, the parable of the talents in scripture. We don't want to bury our talents. We are using our talents. We're comparing them to see together which talents fits together, and then we're putting it to good use, and then we're multiplying it, and then we're replicating it, and then we're creating a system around this one talent that could have been buried. And that's the approach of our work, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve the people of the world, the Black people of the world, and the members of the Ethiopian World Federation. Yeah.
Mighty, 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 mighty. I want to give thanks for your time this evening. I want before we try, just give a quick shout out to your son, who I shared with is a basketball legend in the making.
He is. He is. He's going to the NBA. My Judah lion. That's my lion child. My Judah. He's my everything. My heart. And yeah, he's definitely into his basketball. I congratulate. He got into, the school he wanted to go. Academic game. And I pray for him to have a spiritual consciousness as he grows up by watching my example and being surrounded by our community. He is our child. He's not just my child. He is our child. And I give thanks for all the words of encouragement. Our treasurer, international treasurer, and local 12 treasurer. She just calls me some days and she just says, "How's Judah?" And then we talk and she said, "No, you have to do this, you have to do that. This is how it was with my son." And those are the moments that give me confirmation that I'm at the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right hearts. And I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful because Judah is going to be the beneficiary of these relationships. So thank you for that, and love to your family, and your wife, love to your wife, and love to your children, because there are children as well.
Exactly. And for those who are wondering, tell them how tall Judah is at 13 years old.
Yes, my lion is not my baby lion anymore. He is 6'4" and 13 years old, and he's I put him in as many camps as I can find. So he's on his way. Jah has blessed him mightily, and he's super smart. So I think that'll take him a long way as well, academically, with learning plays and everything. He was born equipped with everything he needed for success. He's standing on the shoulder of giants. Yes.
Yeah, we want to see some windmill dunks and then him hold the seal. We want to see him dunk on someone and hold the seal on national TV.
Yeah, he's going to be wearing the Rastafari colors. That's my vision, is like having, an Ethiopian World Federation. One of our sistrins, Empress Menelik from Local 119, her son is a track star and he's training in Jamaica. She lived in Trinidad, he's training in Jamaica. So our vision is to have everybody wearing Rastafari colors at some point, having an Ethiopian World Federation sports teams to put into the Olympics with all these athletes. Yeah, we have Ross Mikey, his kids are amazing with soccer. Like we were born equipped. We had everything we need to get to where we want to do, and wave that banner high, wave that back flag. The Lion of Judah flag will be on jerseys and everything. That's where we're heading.
Give thanks, give thanks. Mighty, mighty. So you've heard it here, family, the Lion Voice Network. The time flew by. This is just part one. We're going to ask Sister Scheril to be a regular contributor on the platform. Want to do some in-person interviews with her so we can have better quality, because she's fully loaded, as you can see, with knowledge and information. My legal colleague. Make sure anytime you come to DC, we link up so we can even make sure the Rastafari community turns out to these conferences and advocacy events. We can come out with the harps and the Nyabingi drums and add some spice to some of these lobbying events that you have here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
We have a community here that's strong. Yeah, so we're going to make the link. Everything you see on this channel is history in the making. So we do give thanks for the connection, the work that you're doing with EWF. Just give us some final word sound to the global Rastafari family that you would love to leave them with.
Yeah. Yes, well, I will say that we are strong and we have everything we need. All we need is us and our I know life is complicated right now, but we have to study the Bible. I have to shout out, stick to that chapter a day. It's very important reading scripture. I came to this meeting with two things: my Constitution and my Bible, because I knew that, if at worst case could get wisdom from either one direction or the other direction. So I encourage you to really return to the practices of old, return to the practices of the ancients, but at the same time embrace ingenuity and embrace innovation. We shouldn't be afraid of innovation and technology. And this is a time we see what's happening in Africa, Ibrahim Traore and all this unification of the countries. That's what he wanted. That's what he desired. And we're starting to see where we're taking off the yokes of enslavement. We're throwing off the colonialism. And it's a beautiful time to be alive. And I encourage you to just take some time, reflect, and think about, what is my role to play in these times? What is my part to play? Which mantle am I going to take on, married to the next level? So it's time to level up, my people. I love you, and I look forward to doing this work with you in every single jurisdiction. This work can't stop. Give thanks. And thank you for having me, Ras Kwasi. Thank you for hosting me on your platform. May you have abundance and growth, supernatural, exponential growth to your viewership and the monetization and your ability to get the message out all around the world. That is our hope and wish for you, and we support you.
Give thanks, my sister, my colleague, family. This is the great gathering. This is the time of the great gathering, where the sons and the daughters are gathering from the four corners of the earth. It's a prophetic time. And to the power of technology, we are able to actively be participants with this movement and play our role. I've been called by the Most High to rise up Rastafari independent non-aligned media. I've said that, and I become more and more sure of that fact every day, by the encouragement of people like my sister Scheril and others who are continually showing that support. So I really am humbled, especially knowing how accomplished you are, especially knowing how such a hard worker that you are, and you are a historical figure in your own right. And to hear that encouragement, makes I know I'm on the right path. I want to ask the global Lion Pride family to just say some prayers for I and I. My brother-in-law right now is not well, so we're asking everyone just to put out some eyes, give him that heretical powers to come forward stronger and more better than ever. We also have lost a few of our Asians. Mama Fire, her memorial is this Saturday. Just asking everyone to send up ISIS for Mama Fire. We just lost the Queen of Ras Iris here in Washington, D.C., Mama Danita, his queen, caretaker. Ras Iris passed, and then a few months later, his queen passed. So we're still reeling from that loss here in Washington, D.C. We're asking the family to throw up ISIS. There are so many ones who are transitioning, who are going through illness, who are facing great tribulation as we go through this time of momentous change. We're just asking all of us, as we push forward in our individual purpose, as we sort out our space, just to give some ISIS to those who are going through great tribulation. They're going to write, historians are going to write about this time, and how dreadful a time that it was, what I mean? So I and I who survive it, we just have to walk with faith and courage and a just cause, and know that in this 21st century, David, still can slay Goliath. And the Goliath that we're facing is unprecedented in terms of his power and his hunger for war and bloodshed. So let us just throw up that ISIS family. Big up all of the sponsors. Big up all of the Lion Pride. We are looking for 100 people in our Patreon. Again, we're offering the free consultation for up until April 1st. If you get in before April 1st, if you have sent us a message in terms of scheduling your consultation, we're going to get to the item. Don't worry yourself. We're sorting out the schedule. Big up Princess Sitota. We're going to run the commercial after we sign off today. We're going to run the commercials again. We're starting now to open up the platform for community announcements, commercials. We want this to be a hub of information for the global family. So if you have an event that you want to promote, reach out. We have reasonable rates. And again, we're offering free advertising space for young entrepreneurs. So if you have children with a business under 20, they have free reign. Let us have our children build global brands while they're young people, so that when they get old, they can employ themselves and employ others. Anywhere you go and you see City Samosa in Kingston, Jamaica, or outside, we'll buy up everything, make this young lady have some pressure that she have to go and get her more supplies, and her she running out of samosas, and let us teach our youths about supply and demand. Lion Pride, my Jamaica Lion Pride family, big up yourself. As a young entrepreneur, we're looking forward to show more of the creativity of our young people. And if you're 40 years old, you are not a youth. I'm sorry to tell you, I am drawing a line. You know, Rastafari youths are under 20. I am taking a militant stance on that. So family, once again, we are here. We are here, family. Every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we'll announce our guests. We have Mama Corrida, Dr. Corrida McDonald. Her episode just dropped. The mother of Kalissa Keznandi, Kimani, Kadia, all of her children doing mightyful works. Watch that episode. Powerful testimony. We just interviewed Empress Kushite. I got my Trinity. So all of the three wise queens from that song have now done their content. We're going to premiere Empress Kushite episode on Friday evening. So look out for the Empress Kushite. She came with a plan to the interview. She's now one of my favorite artists. She came with a plan. You'll see on the reasoning how she planned for me, and it worked. You know what I mean? She and her manager set a plan for me, and it worked. You'll see that on Friday. So we are building. We're going to be announcing our panelists for our annual Empress Menen panel shortly. We have some surprises this year for the Empress Menen panel, April 3rd. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. If you know a Rastafari person and they don't know about the Lion Voice Network, make sure you do your work and tell them they need to plug in. We're doing about 40,000 unique watchers, and we only have 31,000 subscribers. So a lot more people are watching the platform than are subscribed. Just join the Lion Pride. We have over 1,000 pieces of content on the platform right now, so you know what we're dealing with, and it's only going to get better. Again, I want to just big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. We're going to be doing an unboxing for our Patreon members. I just got my new camera lens. We're about to be in 4K, Lion Pride family, because of your financial contributions. So big up on yourself. We are doing this the real way. Give thanks to Empress Scheril Murray Powell, my esteemed colleague, for her presence. We're going to continue doing this work. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice. Aye.
The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice. Rastafari.
This is Mama Thea of Asli Pure, and when I want to hear the story from the lion and the lioness, I listen to Lion Voice with Ras Kwasi Bonsu.
Greetings, I'm Sister Aisha Diana Conwood, currently the Assistant Commissioner of Agriculture for the U.S. Virgin Islands. Time for the lioness to roar. You know, this is the lion's voice. Lioness, let's roar, lion pour.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Ganja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lamb's voice. Now put it, I Jalifa said that.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Jano, I'm so hungry, bro. I haven't eaten all day. Like, my head started to hurt me too. Like, what more could I eat right now?
What about a city samosa? Get your samosa, a fusion of Indian, Jamaican, and African culture. City samosas, the best samosas in the city.
She's like the flowers in my garden, and her heart has never hardened, and she give me loving in the morning. Babylon, you are go far without no warning. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could have be my children's mother. But no struggle, so we both could help each other, and then I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could have be my children's mother. But no struggle, so we both could help each other. Started in the village, now we in the city. Journey where we have together, everybody see. Spent a little time out in captivity. Babylon, their plan was to destroy the family. Still I want you to bring a child for me. Maybe in the spring when birds are sing lovely. Maybe we could plan to have a summer baby. I can be the man that you depend on. Put the pen to the paper, made a love song. Babylon, they separated us for so long, and the reason that they hated us was so wrong. Still the most that he created us, we so strong. Then same Kushite and the Dogon. Love your melanin, no follow for them program. Black woman, me not go pass on you for no one. No one, that's my slogan. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other. Then I wanna be a lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other.
What do you have to tell the people about Rastafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. I left himself. Where's right ruler? Hey yo! Yeah. Tell them high, hail the black king, born the 23rd of July. So tell them guy, who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time, them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them come without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion where come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, I and I strive, see sufferation, I and I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them in Toronto, straight at
Experience the spirit of community and culture at Rastafari Renaissance Fridays. Support fair trade and authentic Jamaican indigenous cultural vendors. Shop local and full joy farm fresh produce from local Jamaican farmers. Savor Ital food, sip on natural drinks, and indulge in cannabis delights. Groove to vintage roots music and open mic performances. Watch movies under the stars. Fun for all ages. Starting every Friday on March 21st at the House of Seba, Rastafari Sacred Space at Saltmarsh Square, Falmouth, Trelawney, Jamaica. Free entry. Fun for the whole family, starting at 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. To become a vendor, sponsor, advertise, or book a tour, visit Rastafari.tv or call 876-487-4138 or 954-673-6823. Join us to celebrate community, culture, and oneness. See you there.